What's up, everybody? This is the Carl Weathers Predators Weathers Report featuring the Action Jackson AccuPredator Doppler Weather Radar Forecasts and Cardi B. Thank you, Cardi B, for your sonar abilities. It's built into your old catchphrase, occur. No, it goes like this. Occur. Close enough. Anyway, I think that the weather right now is a real knockout. You know what I mean? It's like a 1-2 punch out there. It's rated. It's like a hurricane. It's like a roundhouse punch. It's like a rabbit punch to the back of the... You know what I'm trying to say? I'm trying to make a boxing analogy because, I've got boxing gloves on. Yeah, it's not really working. You should probably bail on that bit. I agree, Cardi B. Anyway, it's raining in L.A. What do you think about that? Well, I know it sounds crazy, but I really love it when it rains in L.A. Is that right? Why would that sound crazy? And as you can see, there's a movie poster over my shoulder for Chance O' Showers, which is a movie that I never made. Oh, it never came out, actually, but I did film it. It's got Mark Wahlberg and myself, and it looks like it's got Billy D. Williams, it turns out. But the two of us, as you can see, I was trying to do a whole series of weather-related movies because my name is Weathers, Carl Weathers. Hey, Raccoon Raiders. Welcome to the Carl Weathers Predator Weathers Forecast featuring the Action Jackson AccuPredator Doppler Radar Forecast at Cardi B. How you doing? What time is it over there? Is it 9 p.m.? You should be in bed. Anyway, remember that commercial? It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Do you remember that? That was in New York in the 80s. Anyway, probably going to rain for a little bit more. This has been the Carl Weathers Predator Report featuring the Action Jackson AccuPredator Doppler Radar Forecast. Yeah, man. It's a new time. It's evening. It's 6 p.m. Well, let's see who shows up. We're going to talk about comedy. We're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about music. That's my favorite topic because I'm the classic rock biter. Classic rock, man. Remember Grace Slick? Remember Fog? Remember when Black Sabbath did like the Black Rainbow band? I mean, it's like, it sounded cool to them, I guess. Black Rainbow, because that's just one color. It's black. But rainbow is not a very heavy metal type of idea. Like, if you say rainbow, my mind doesn't go directly to heavy metal or anything like that. I just think like sunshine and lollipops, Not like Black Sabbath, man. That sounds cool. I guess that's all I gotta say about that. What's up, everybody? It is me, Aristotle Full Throttle. We're hanging out here. It's a new time, new bat channel. Same bat channel, new bat time, but it's got like mood lighting. It's dark. Dark now. Remember Dark Man? With Liam Neeson's? Anyway, you know what? This is exciting for me. I found a Guitar Center gift card. It's always nice when you find money. And I found some money, and I just bought some more drum stuff. Because, I play drums now. Hello, Raccoon Raiders. I'd like to play your intro now. Sing the whole song.
Raccoon Raiders! Raccoon Raiders!
Oh, well, that's very dramatic. dramatic ending there. A very Hans Zimmer bois. Hey, I just saw that Colleen shared a dank meme. Miss Leatherface. You guys excited for Halloween? It's this weekend. It's Sunday. Halloween on a Sunday was never my favorite. Halloween on a Saturday was my favorite because I'd go out early. I would go out at like noon. I was like, screw it. I'm going to go out at noon. I'm going to stay out till 10 p.m. and get that candy. Get all that candy. Fill up a pillowcase of candy. What's your favorite Halloween candy? Don't tell me it's got anything with coconuts in it. Get out of here with your coconut candy, Almond Joy BS. Some people love it. I don't love it. You know, when I was a kid, they would still give you, like, I don't know if people still do this, but they give you that absolute garbage. They'll give you, like, Necco wafers. It's garbage. It's a garbage candy. I think they made one batch of Necco wafers, and they're still selling it 100 years later. It's not a good candy. Listen, Necco, or whoever made those wafers. You know what I think they were? I think they added too much sugar to the Eucharist when you go to church. You get that little piece of bread they stick on your tongue. I think that's what it was. That's what they were trying to intentionally make, but they added too much sugar to that batch. And you know, the Pope said, "Screw it, let's sell them as a garbage candy to the kids. Turn them on to Catholicism." All right, it seems like this new time slot is working out. Let's see, what else is in the news, guys? Dave Chappelle, that's everybody's favorite. Last night, first of all, I would like to take a moment to remember Helena Hutchins, who was shot to death by Alec Baldwin the other day for no reason at all. For no reason. There's obviously it was a safety measure. It was an actor shooting a gun during rehearsal, and it went off. Killed a person, and this is unbelievable. It's unfathomable. I don't know how that happens. Nobody knows how that happens in this day and age. Especially, listen, there's like a whole protocol when you're on a set. There's a armorer, there's a prop master. Prop guns usually have something in the barrel that closes off the barrel so no projectiles can come out. You cannot load prop guns with live ammunition because of the fact, like, it just won't fit. They're modified. They're modified dummy weapons that should never have the capability of firing anything through the barrel. And it's insane. So I think the whole film industry right now is reeling and feeling this pain of this loss because it's such a frickin' unreal situation, especially since Brandon Lee. I mean, it's one thing to be on camera and have someone fire a gun at you or whatever with a blank, but still, blanks can kill. Brandon Lee is kind of a freak accident because the music's so loud. Brandon Lee was kind of a freak accident because there was something stuck in the barrel of that gun, and the percussive force of the blank shot that piece of plastic or whatever, the dummy bullet, with enough force to kill a person, which is not. It should just never happen. So I think people who work on set regularly are just they're mystified, they're stupefied, they're bewildered, they're nonplussed about this whole situation. We don't know what the heck. I don't know. I just keep going over like the possible scenarios in my head, and it comes down to, why was there a live gun? Why was there an actual gun with live ammunition? Doesn't make any sense. Needless to say, I imagine that prop master or armorer is fired. And likely, and for good reason, never work again. Because, and I was listening to the news, and they were saying the armorer, her father is apparently an armorer. So she got this job through nepotism. Not that that's a bad thing. I feel like a lot of people, it's just a thing that exists. A lot of people get jobs through nepotism. You go to Detroit, everybody works in the car industry because their father worked in the car industry. You go to, different parts of the country where there's major industry, people get a good job, a They're like, go to college, son, and I'll get you a good job at the company. You know, it's just like, movies are like that too, which I find funny in the sense that whenever an actor like Colin Hanks is in the movie Orange County, and they went on and on and on about how Colin Hanks had to audition. He had to audition. We sent him through the audition process so that he could be, and it turned out he was the best one to be in this role for Orange County. He auditioned and he got the lead in this movie. Can you believe it? And I'm just thinking, well, if I'm a producer in that movie and I see the name Hanks and I could put the name Hanks on a poster for my movie, it's a shoo-in. It's pretty much you're gonna hire him. That's not the point. The point is nepotism. It's a thing. Colin Hanks is pretty good. He got pretty good 10 years later after being the lead in a movie. See, you get to be a lead in a movie and then get good 10 years later. You don't. That's where I think the best training is on the job training, especially though. I mean, it's both ways. It's like, if you're Colin Hanks and then you get a job, the lead of a major Hollywood motion picture, and you've never acted in anything before. I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of in the middle about it. I think it's stupid, but I also see why it happens. But this armorer, she wasn't good at her job. I think that's the point I'm trying to make, is that perhaps she had a family member who spent a career being excellent at the job, and then she got the job because that family member was excellent, and now she's not qualified. She was not a qualified armorer, clearly. There were several misfires of the gun. Hello, Wesley.
Wesley.
Corn Pop was a bad dude.
Wesley, have you been up to some devious licks? What do you say? That was little Wesley, the alien. Welcome, Wesley Plotke. How are you? Happy Monday. Is it Monday where you are? So I just say, this is a needless tragedy, and we came together last night for this vigil, and we showed our respect for a person who just should not have died, and someone who's been working through the industry and working their way up through the industry and becoming a rising star in the industry, and it sucks too, because female cinematographers there are very few at that level, not because of any reason other than the patriarchy. So it's kind of crazy. The Oscars have been around for 80 years or whatever. The Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences, they've been giving away Oscars for cinematography for 80 years. You know how many times? It was up until a couple of years ago. There's 5 people you can nominate for cinematography every year. Not, let alone the fact that that Roger Deakins didn't get his Oscars until recently, and this dude's been making incredible films since 70s and 60s, I think. But anyway, that notwithstanding, you can nominate up to 5 people per year for Best Cinematographer. And in the first 70 years or so of the Oscars, guess how many women were nominated for Best Cinematographer? 1! And it was 2 or 3 years ago. She was the first woman to be nominated for cinematographer in 75 years or something. That doesn't make any sense. It's just statistically almost impossible, on account of women being half of all people. So I say it's just a damn shame when you have someone who is, making their way up through the ranks and earning it all on the way up. As far as it's interesting. There are noticeable changes going on in the industry that I noticed the other day. I went and saw the movie Halloween Kills, and I was watching it, I was like, there's a lot of black people in this movie. Cool. And I was like, oh yeah, the Oscars in the film industry said you gotta have like 40% or 50 minorities in your movies. So now they're just like, there's black people everywhere. Everywhere you look, there's black people and brown people. I love it. It's great. It's almost like they're trying to make up for lost time. Like every commercial that you see, not only will there be one black person in it, they might be even two black people in it, which is unheard of. I mean, 5 years ago it was unheard of. You would watch a commercial and there would just be like, there'd always be like a bunch of white guys and then like an Asian guy and a black guy. Because there can only be one. People can't handle it. I actually saw a commercial with two in a room. I think they were singing, or was it two in the room? What was the band? They were singing Whoop, There It Is. And that band consists of two black guys, and they were singing in the kitchen of a black woman. And I said, there are 3 black people in this commercial. Where is this, the Twilight Zone? No, it's Hollywood trying to win over public approval. Because that's Hollywood for you. So it's interesting. There are a lot of people who are qualified and have always been qualified who are now getting jobs, is what I'm saying. Which is good. But it feels like a little too little too late, from my standpoint. But I think also it's interesting how I feel like a lot of corporations are like, I guess we just gotta have any old brown person and or Zazie Beetz for everything. And it's the limited imagination, I think. I know I'm going on these tangents, but it's all related. It's all related. I'm saying that it's much harder in this industry, apparently, for a woman to go up to that level of in this industry, not because of talent and not because of ability, but because of the fact that just that women are disadvantaged in this industry. Minorities are disadvantaged in this industry. So here's to more diversity. Speaking of diversity, I wanted to talk about Dave Chappelle, because Dave Chappelle came out with like a 5-minute clip on his special, The Closer. Now, if you haven't seen The Closer and you have an opinion on it, I think by definition your opinion is moot. Because there are a lot of people who seem to be really fired up about what they think Dave Chappelle said, or whatever the out of context quotes that they heard, or they're seeing that there are people who are upset and they're just joining in the upset and saying, yes, your upset is valid. Or I agree with you. This is the thing, it's tricky. Because if there are people who are genuinely upset and then there are people who are empathizing with those people, I get it. However, what I have seen is that there are people who are upset who haven't watched the special and they're angry with Dave Chappelle and think that, of course, that he should get canceled. And I don't think that if you watch the special, that would be automatically your conclusion. I think that he opened up a discussion. He opened up a dialogue. He said, hey, these are things that they say that aren't funny or should not be made fun of. These are jokes that should not be made, is basically what people who are saying who are not comedians. But it's okay. I mean, comedy is for the general public. But I don't think the general public should dictate what a comedian should or should not say. I think the general public will tell you whether or not it's funny in mass. If you're a comedian, you go up on stage, you say a thing, and 98% of the people laugh, and then the 2% of the people, as Dave Chappelle, will blog about it and say how much they hated it and how hateful and hurtful your words were. I don't understand how you go to a comedy show and get offended, first of all. This is just like, my brain can't wrap around the fact that if you go to a comedy show, if I go to a comedy show and someone just beats up on me, I'm gonna laugh. If they just sit there and they go, what's this guy on the fro? You stuck your finger in the electric socket. What's going on with your glasses? What are you trying to... If they just lay into me, I think that's funny. I would just laugh and go along with it. I don't understand how anybody... this is why it's really weird, because I watch a lot of comedians online. I watch a lot of, clips of comedians, and sometimes there'll be hecklers, and then sometimes there'll be people who are angry with the person on stage. They're angry with someone who is hired and paid to make them laugh. It's like, well, if you're not laughing, then you didn't get your money's worth. Then you should probably just leave. Demand a refund at the door, but that's if you can get a refund. But to ridicule the person on stage, which, by the way, most comedians can handle, because that's what you open yourself up to. You go up on a stage, you're opening yourself up to criticism, and that's fair game. But the one person, the 2% in the crowd that are angry with the comedian who's up there telling jokes, it's really not the... You're playing now... Norm Macdonald has a great bit. I'm gonna play the clip for you, because I don't want to ruin it. But Norm Macdonald on cancel culture is kind of amazing. Norm Macdonald, I've been going down the Norm Macdonald rabbit hole. Even though before he died, I would listen constantly to Norm Macdonald. I would watch. I've seen every one of his specials on Netflix. I've seen or his series on Netflix. I've just always been a fan of his. But he talks about playing to the 2% in the room that get upset with what you're saying. And now, none of what you say is funny, but, at least people aren't upset. That 2% isn't upset. Yeah, the audience will let you know whether something is funny. Let's see. I'm just trying to find these.
All press is you have to get 100%. Populate. I'm below
sacred place, but that's really hurt.
We're getting there.
It's very calculated and thought out.
Did that
To just
climate we're in and everything that's happened?
Here we go.
Comedy, do you feel like you're walking on eggshells at all? Do you feel more nervous about stuff you tweet and stuff you say just because of the climate we're in and everything that's happened?
yeah, we're gonna go do stand-up right now. It's mostly trying out new stuff. You don't have the freedom to just talk and free
That's the key.
associate.
Freedom.
And then, carve it back from there. Because usually the process would be you go way over the line.
Yeah.
And then you bring it, and people go, we hate you. And then you take away all the parts where they hate you. And then you're left with the stuff that's not, that's on the line but not over it.
Is your starting point a little bit more sort of tamer these days?
Oh, yeah. It's very calculated and thought out. And,
Does that hurt your act, though?
yeah, it's way less funny.
Is that right?
Other than it being not as funny, it's wonderful. It doesn't hurt anyone's feelings anymore, but virtually no one laughs. So it's a trade-off.
So that's really hurt your career in terms of the fact that you're an eggshell comedian. I don't think
I'm an egg. Is that a new term?
I just made it up just now. Shouldn't comedy be some sort of sacred place where you're allowed to say whatever's kind of on your mind, and if it's funny, then it's okay?
It used to be, like Jerry Seinfeld always says, the audience will let you know.
The audience will let you know.
When it's gone too far, because they're across, representation of the population.
Yeah.
But now it's not enough to get, 99%. You have to get 100%. Most of the audience wants to be funny, doesn't care about anything but that. They just want to escape.
Yeah.
But a tiny group of people ruin it for everyone.
And that's who you cater your performance to these
I
days?
cater my performance to the tiny group of people
That's sad.
that hate me. I've never believed that.
I cater my performance to the tiny group of people who hate him. That's exactly it. Hey, K. Griff. Who's been spoiling everything?
It's Kelly! All along. And I killed Sparky, too.
Okay, Griff. So we're talking about the concept of, I mean, Norm Macdonald says it there. He says it's the 2% who get upset, who tell him he's not allowed to do those things. So then he says only the things that will satisfy that 2% who hate him already. So all of the people, the 98% of people who love Norm Macdonald or Dave Chappelle, they don't matter. The 2% of people who don't get the joke are the ones dictating comedy. The unfunny people are the ones who say what should be funny and what shouldn't be funny. That's the world we live in. It's ridiculous. Norm, yeah, I miss Norm. Norm was the most honest comedian. The most honest. Just would say whatever was happening. He would address whatever was happening. You know, if someone was sarcastic, he'd be like, "Oh, it's just like you're trying to make me sound like I'm dumb." Just like literally describe what you're doing. It's great. He responded to you once on Periscope live feed, and it was truly a wonderful moment. Well, Norm was a wonderful comedian and a defender, harsh defender, a fierce defender of being able to say the things, being able to try as an artist, as a comedian. Comedian, like it or not, is an art form. Comedy, it's an art form. You gotta try it out. But it's very, very specific in the sense that you can have an instinct, you can have a feeling, you can have a notion of what's funny, but unless you try it out in front of actual humans, you don't know if it's funny or not. Like, and that crowd will tell you. The crowd will tell you. But I don't understand how the 2% of people who aren't getting the joke are saying, okay, well, now let me tell you what comedy is. Because I don't understand. I didn't laugh. And I understand that the trans community is a very vulnerable community. However, there was a trans woman talking about this who is also a comedian and who is also a person of color, and she was saying that nothing is sacred in comedy. You are allowed to talk about anything and everything, and people should discuss. They should have a discussion. They shouldn't just say, "You do not agree with me, go away forever." But the idea that there should be any group that is a protected class, quote unquote, in the sense that, and I know that it is a very vulnerable population. I'm not taking any of that away from the discussion. I think, however, comedy, to include you in the comedy, to include you, the cops are coming, the cancel cops are coming. They heard me talk about Dave Chappelle. Go arrest me. What Dave Chappelle is doing is including people in the comedy conversation, including, because as soon as you say to a comedian, "Oh, you can't joke about that," the comedian will find a way to joke about it. You know, musicians and artists and they reflect the time. They reflect the time in which they are existing. And the fact that Dave is going up on stage and saying jokes, and some of them were groaners, but you're still laughing. People are still laughing. He knows. He was walking on the line during his special. I don't think he crossed a line. I think he walked and danced on top of the line and said, you know, this is the closer special. I think he was saying stuff that he knew would get a laugh. And that's what it happened. He's including people, the trans community, in the comedy conversation. Everyone can be made fun of. He has been making fun of black people forever. And white people. And he said that a woman complained about him. This is in one of his specials. She was very angry with Dave Chappelle and said that he was making anti-Asian remarks. And, you know, he's like, which was hilarious, this is in his own words, because, you know, he's married to a Filipina woman. But, you know, again, people are like, well, that's the same as saying some of my friends are black. And it's like, it's not. It's not saying some of my friends are black. I can't be racist, some of my friends. It's not saying that. If you marry someone, if you are intimately involved with somebody on that level, I think there are things that you can learn and sympathize and empathize with. You know, I think about this a lot, actually. Bill Burr's wife is black, and I never knew that. Not that it matters or is relevant, but he never mentioned it in his act until recently, until Paper Tigers or whatever. He never mentioned that. Now he started incorporating his wife and that aspect of her family and his family. But at first, he said he never mentioned it. I listen to his podcast sometimes, and he's talking about how he never mentions it. He never talks about it because it's all the same stuff. It's all the same stuff. Men and women trying to get along in a marriage. But in Paper Tiger, was it Paper Tigers or Paper Tiger? He was talking about how there are certain racial things that are funny that he finds now in his family. But yeah, it's interesting to me. It's very interesting to me when people are not getting the joke. You can get the joke but still not like it. Exactly, I agree. There are paintings that appreciate for efforts but do not personally enjoy. Yes, K-Griff, that is absolutely true. I have no argument with that sentiment. I think, for instance, I think Chris D'Elia, I don't really find him that funny. I think he's kind of funny sometimes. I know I was watching a special, Chris D'Elia, I don't know how to say his name. I was watching his special from a few years ago, and I was thinking, that joke's a little bit racist. He doesn't think so, but it is. I'd never in a million years did it occur to me that he shouldn't go on a stage and say the things he says. Never. I was just like, I liked the first half of the special, and then this part of the special, I don't like it. It's just, I disagree with it. I don't think it's funny. But that's all. Guys, come on. What happened? I don't sit there and get mad at Larry the Cable Guy for saying all that stupid stuff that he says. Come on. Listen, if you get mad at Larry the Cable Guy, you might be a redneck. See? You might be a redneck. That was a whole bit. That was Jeff Foxworthy's bread and butter for years, for decades. To this day, you might be a redneck. You think people are offended by that? I'm sure. Is it funny? I mean, that's if you like Jeff Foxworthy or not. That comes down to your opinion of Jeff Foxworthy. But the point I'm trying to say is, why would there be any group of people that is off limits to comedy? People say, well, you know, Jewish people in the Holocaust, you can't joke about that. And I'm like, well, wasn't The Producers the biggest musical on Broadway circa 2000 for like a decade? Wasn't it all about springtime for Hitler in Germany? There are angles, guys. You can find an angle on any topic. I promise you. That is the art of comedy. But the fact that people say, well, you can't do this. I get the joke, but I don't like it, so you can't do it. Even though everyone here is laughing, I'm not laughing. So I'm going to tell you what's funny. It's out of control, guys. We're getting out of control. I think the whole point that Chappelle is trying to make in all of his like sort of petulance, I don't even know if petulance is the right word, but his defiance of this whole situation is fundamentally, he is fighting cancel culture. He's not fighting the LGBTQ plus community. He's not fighting trans people. He's fighting the concept of cancel culture. That's what he's fighting. if anybody's listening, if anybody's watching his show from start to finish, which is what he requested, he said if the people at Netflix who are offended by his special The Closer, if they are offended by that, I will agree to meet with you to talk to you about that. However, he had 3 requests, and of course, there's a punchline. So he said the first request is that you watch the special from start to finish. Because I just find it ridiculous that there are people who have an opinion on it who haven't watched it. They're like, well, these people said they got upset for these reasons. And it's like, okay, those reasons that they're stating are out of context and miss the point, in my opinion. From my point of view, having watched it all the way through twice. Does it matter? Am I someone who got offended by it? No. Is my opinion a trans opinion? No. But I think that the fact that people are calling for his cancellation, you're allowed a variety of opinions and reactions to Dave Chappelle's special, and it is the overwhelming minority that doesn't like it, but they are also the loudest in the room, apparently. They're like, so the first request was, Dave said, you got to watch my special from start to finish. Secondly, it's going to be at a time and a place of his choosing. And thirdly, they have... let me just... I don't want to butcher this. He's like, you have to agree that Hannah Gadsby is not funny. Which is a joke, people. This is a joke. Because Hannah Gadsby was included in the conversation when the guy from Netflix kind of muffled his response, which was, you know, our platform includes everybody. We've got Hannah Gadsby on. He's like, we've got a trans person, which is kind of hilarious because it's just some of our best friends are trans and black, but those are different. The fact that Hannah Gadsby, I've been reading some of the things that she said to Dave Chappelle, and it's like, if you're a comedian, I don't know. I feel like if you're a comedian down to your bones, you will see what another comedian's doing and appreciate it on that level. And when you're Dave Chappelle, who's arguably the greatest comedian in modern times, you know, he's doing something on purpose, and if you're attaching to specific words he said, like turf in his special, if you're attaching all of your focus on 1 or 2 lines that are out of context from his special, then you are taking the bait and missing the deeper level conversation that Dave Chappelle is introducing to this whole conversation. That's my opinion. I think if you're focusing on the things that he was literally saying to get a rise out of people, because he knows it's on the line, but he knows it's still funny. If you're focusing on that, then you're taking the bait and you're missing the big picture. Dude, I saw him on the first tour date after the infamous This is my opinion, ladies and gentlemen. I can have a discussion. He ended up becoming Fox Newsworthy. That's good. That's a good one. Dude, I just saw him on the first tour date after infamous Connecticut debacle. And he was incredibly gracious and appreciative for the audience response. Who? Jeff Foxworthy? Fox Newsworthy? Yeah, you saw him. Or are we talking about Dave Chappelle? Still? Or are you talking about Hannah Gadsby? Can we watch Key and Peele's East versus West Bowl instead? I do like Key and Peele. That's my jam. Key and Peele's? Liam Neeson's? Racist ass Melly Gibson's? Racist ass Melly Gibson's gonna be at the in a movie that in the John Wick-verse. I don't know how I feel about the John Wick universe, because it's just like, can't they just have stuff that happens and they don't explain it? Do we have to keep like going back down through the levels of stuff? I just like when they just introduce a new thing in a John Wick movie and it just exists. Like the hotel. I was like, oh, that's cool. It just exists. It's just a thing. You know, Morpheus in the underground with his pigeons. I like it. It's cool. It's just a thing. It's just one of the guys John Wick knows. He knows a lot of people. Dude, you saw him the first tour date after his infamous Connecticut debacle. Oh, yes, the Connecticut debacle, where he addresses that in his special from Netflix, where he said he was booed off stage. The first 5 minutes that he said, it's not true. I was booed, but I did not leave. It's true. He actually waited and it told a story. I actually enjoyed that bit. I watched the whole thing. It's like 18 minutes or 20. It's exactly like 20 minutes and 18 seconds because he had to fulfill his contract, which was to do a show that was at least 20 minutes long or something. And he sat there and the crowd was unruly. You know, it's part of his job to wrangle a crowd, but it's also part of the crowd's job to STFU when there's someone on stage. So it was kind of like a big... That was a debacle. Everybody was... It was just calamity. But as a comedian, it is part of your... As someone who's on the stage, as a host, as a comedian, it's your job to bring everybody's attention. However, he seemed like it was an uphill battle with that crowd. They were just trying to shout out all of his memes from his show. But he did tell that story about Richard Pryor, which was worth it. Chappelle's cool. He can go on stage for 5 minutes. He can go on stage for 10, 15, 20, tell a story. And that's good enough for me for a while. It holds me over. It tides me over. I think he does that every few months or so. He'll do like a 10, 15 minute story. And fundamentally, guys, he's telling stories from his perspective, his point of view, his own experience. He's not telling you to live that way. I find that he's not explaining that this is the way to live. He's saying, this is my opinion. This is my viewpoint. You can find my viewpoint funny or not. You can share my viewpoint or not. This is very basic stuff, guys. I find it... I don't know. I just get disheartened that people cannot see that there is an art form on a stage. When you go on a stage, it's a performance. He's performing. He's performing in a way to make people laugh. And if that's what's happening, if he's saying words and the crowd is laughing, he's successful at his job. I think the people who are going around telling Dave Chappelle what funny is should also tell the doctors what vaccines are and masks and the effectiveness. These are the same people, in my opinion. They're telling the doctors what works and what doesn't. It's the same people. The same mentality. Jeff Ross was the MC. That's amazing. And it had cornrows. And you know, the funny thing about appropriation, cultural appropriation, is, listen, my opinion on it is like a white dude with cornrows or a white dude with dreadlocks. I'm just kind of like, I mean, go ahead. It doesn't look good. It's a bad look, bro. But go ahead. It's your hair, man. That's how I feel at the end of the day when it comes to wearing your hair. I think anybody should wear their hair any freaking way they choose to. Again, I'm not gonna dictate your hairstyle, but I will have an opinion on it. I'll tell you. Listen, those cornrows, Jeff Ross. I mean, it's a look. You remind me of Jared Leto in Panic Room. That was a choice he made. Jeff Royce was the MC. I think it's funny that MC is spelled EMCEE. I think it's one of the things I find funny in life, guys.
That is so fetch.
So we're gonna go out to this show after. So do I, as you well know, I think you're responding to something I said 30 seconds ago, which I forgot because I've got cat-like reflexes and a cat-like memory. What did I just say? That you think it's funny that Jeff, that MC, or just that it's a bad look. It's a bad look to like blonde dreadlocks. I'm just like, all right, you go right ahead. Put that stuff in your hair and try to get it all kinked up. Oh yeah, the hair thing. Yeah, you could go right ahead. I mean, it's your hair, it's your body. You do what you want. You do you, man, lady. That's fundamentally, I think that's where this is the discussion. Who's allowed to say what? Who's allowed to do what? I think people can say and do anything they want. And again, face the consequences and backlash. But to take someone out of context and then tell them that they can't have a career, or that you don't think that, it's like, I don't think he's funny and I should be platformed saying that I don't think he's funny. All right. But I think the backlash and the consequences for comedians should be right there in the moment. I think if you say something and the crowd laughs, that's the direct consequence. If the crowd boos you off stage, that's the consequence. People can stop trying to make fetch happen. Stop trying to make wide dreadlocks.
Oh, that's cool.
But do the things. You could go up. Your hair is in the awkward phase. My hair is always in the awkward phase. My hair is I don't even know what's going on with my hair. Never know. I just wake up and then see what's doing that day. I gotta say though, at the end of the day, you can say anything you want. Fundamentally, I think you could do anything you want with your body. Fundamentally, I think. I just don't think that words, for instance, unless you're running for public office, if you were running for public office and you said all of these people should die, and you get drummed out of politics, that makes more sense than someone who goes up on stage and says stuff to make people laugh. I think that's because at the end of the day, Dave Chappelle is not trying to impart any sort of social change, although he has started a conversation. He has started this conversation. He said he is including a group of people in comedy and let nobody will touch, and it's only because they have come after him. So he is including them in his comedy because he's saying, you're telling me I'm not funny, you're telling me these jokes aren't funny, you're telling me these jokes are off limits. But you don't have to take my word for it. I think I beat this into the ground, this topic. If you haven't seen the special from start to finish, because it is all, the dude's an artist, he tells stories, he tells overarching stories, and frankly, if you don't watch all 5 Netflix specials for the greater context, I think you will be clearly missing the point. And the stuff that he says that is blatantly on the line, he is saying it because he knows that. And he's saying, hey, look, I'm going to say the thing you say I can't say. And I appreciate that. I don't necessarily find all of his comedy fun, like all of the jokes on the things he says funny. And I'm not going to sit there and say that you have to find anybody 100% funny. I don't think that's how it works. But like Norm Macdonald says, if you whittle your act down to the portion where it's not offending anybody, it's 100%. It's 100%, placating the audience. Now you've got nothing that's enticing or funny or surprising or interesting. I do have to watch more Hannah Gadsby because I remember someone was suggesting them to me. A few people have suggested them to me, so I haven't watched their stuff yet, but I will. I watched part of it. I think I need to watch an entire special or 2 or 3 of theirs to sort of get into the groove of what their brand is, what their style is. But, there is no one true opinion. But people would want to think that. People want to say that. They're like, if you don't go according to these lines, according to this one true opinion that we all have to agree to, then you're fired from life. And I don't think that's fair. I just don't think it's fair. The Inside the Actor Studio with Dave, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, and definitely watch all the specials. I definitely recommend that because the greater context. In The Closer, Chappelle is talking about a person, a story that is a continuation of longer stories that he told in previous specials, but he condenses it to give you to update you in those stories. But he gives you enough so that you can follow the story in the latest special, but you do get a greater context in the previous specials of who he's talking about and how he's talking about them. But he makes fun. And if you're saying these people cannot be made fun of, and look, this is not what I would do. I'm not going to go out there and make fun of any group of people for any, it's just not my style. But I can appreciate that a joke can be made about anyone. A joke can be made about anything. There is nothing that is off, there's no topic that is off limits. There are jokes that won't work. There are jokes that will just be mean-spirited and just be cruel. But there are jokes that you can find an angle on anything. You can find an angle. Mel Brooks found an angle on the frickin' Holocaust. I just get out of my face when you say that some things can't be joked about. Mel Brooks, in almost every movie, jokes about the Holocaust. Holocaust is the worst event to have happened in the last 100 years, at least. And, he somehow finds an angle on it. Because if we don't have comedy, we cannot heal. Comedy is nature's healing potion. Words, guys. Isn't this amazing? You can just say words in a combination, and it will make the people around you feel better. Just think of the power of that. It'll make the people around you laugh, and laughter is the best medicine, except for cocaine and what did I say? Heroin? So I've never done any of those kinds of hard, crazy types of substances, but they say heroin's the best medicine, and then comedy. They're doing a History of the World Part 2 series on Netflix. I did hear about that, Kid Griff. That's cool. I will watch. He's 95 years old and still funny. I watched his Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, although it was comedians in their house chatting more like. And it was him and Carl Reiner, his best bud. We lost Carl Reiner last year. Another guy who gets comedy. Guys have been around 100 years. Carl Reiner was 98, 99, 100, I forget. But he's been around to see enough. And every generation has this. Every generation has this community. Oh, they're the worst. They're saying, you know, you go look back at Andrew Dice Clay or somebody like that, and you're like, oh, this guy's just a clown. And you're like, yeah, he is a clown playing a character, telling jokes that are funny and making everyone in Madison Square Garden laugh, which is a talent, no doubt. But at the time, with Andrew Dice Clay, I remember this somehow. I've seen it on TV. At the time, people were so angry with Andrew Dice Clay. How can he say this? He hates women, blah, blah, blah. Andrew Dice Clay, the Dice Man, is a 100% character. He's a character that he plays on stage that we are all laughing at. And he knows that. If you watch Andrew Clay, who plays Andrew Dice Clay, if you watch him, if you know anything about him, you know that he was an Elvis impersonator, a spot-on Elvis impersonator. You know that he was a Jerry Lewis. He does an incredible Jerry Lewis impersonation. Like, becomes Jerry Lewis. If you've seen him do this, and then you see him do Andrew Dice Clay, you're like, oh, this all makes sense now. He's Elvis, now he's Jerry Lewis, now he's the Dice Man. These are all different characters that he can play perfectly. And that's talent, guys. He was also in the movie A Star Is Born, the one with Lady Gaga, and he played her dad, and he was hilarious in that. I loved it. My script analysis professor played b-ball with Seinfeld growing up. Wow! Did Jerry, he play b-ball? Was he in Massapequa, Long Island? Because that's where Jerry's from. I grew up like 2 or 3 towns over from there. Wait, let me do the train in my head. Seaford, Massapequa, Massapequa Park, Amityville, Copeg, Lindenhurst, Bayshore. So I was this many. So it was Massapequa Park is the next train stop. Amityville, Copeg, Lindenhurst, Babylon. I forgot Babylon. Bayshore. So I was this many stops on the train from where Jerry Seinfeld grew up. But ladies and gentlemen, what did we learn today? We learned so many things. I was going up. I was shot out of a cannon. I was ready to fight somebody. Actually, I wasn't. I don't fight. Make love, not guar. I want somebody to make a shirt that says make glove, not guar. Oliver, if you're out there watching, can you make me the shirt make glove, not guar? 'Cause that's hilarious. What we learned today is that I am the arbiter of what is comedy. I know jokes like no other. I'm the one who you should listen to, not anyone else. See, this is ironic. This is called irony. You're all laughing at me right now because I'm making a joke. Being sarcastic. I know comedy as well as the next audience member. But I'm not going to tell a comedian what they can or cannot do. I'll just laugh or not laugh. Laughter, by the way, is involuntary. You can't help but laugh. Dave says some jokes in that special, the closer, and you involuntarily laugh, and you're like, wait. That's the discussion. Why is everyone laughing at that? Why did we all burst out in laughter at such a thing to say when we know we're like, ooh, groaner, but we all involuntarily laughed at it? That's what the comedian loves, or especially Dave Chappelle. He loves that he just got into that corner of everyone's mind and tweaked it. Tom Hanks is obsessed with lost gloves. I've seen that. Yeah, he takes pictures on his Instagram of the glove on the ground or something. He's a Glover lover. Is that the Donald Glover's fans? Glover lovers? Because that should be. I'll tell you that much. That's all I know is that Donald Glover is a genius. And also, not Danny Glover's son. Just because they're both black doesn't mean they're related, guys. Neither is Corey Glover, the singer for Living Color. In Living Color. Is it In Living Color? It's Living Color. In Living Color was a TV show. And everybody on that show was related, incidentally. All the Wayans. Kim Wayans, David Wayans, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Sean Wayans. Keenan Ivory Wayans, that guy's rich, man. He's like one of the biggest Hollywood people ever. I talk about this sometimes, but In Living Color was one of the greatest shows because it turned out Jamie Foxx, Jennifer Lopez, Sean Wayans, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Kim Wayans, Damon Wayans, Jim Carrey, Tommy Davidson, David Allen Greer. Come on, that's like an all-star lineup right there. Still working, all of those people. Triple threat. You got Jamie Foxx. It's a triple threat. You know what's funny? Jamie Foxx and Katie Holmes broke up a couple years ago. They broke up a couple years ago. And you know what's funnier? That's when I learned that they were going out. They were dating for 5 years. When you were 17, you fell asleep watching Danny Glover give a speech. He filled in for James Earl Jones. He might as well. They're both black. It's a joke. It's a joke. Danny Glover is the thing about Danny Glover, and then I must go because we've got to go to a show. But the thing about Danny Glover that I think is hilarious is that if you ever see him in an interview, like inside the actor studio or anything, he is the most articulate human being on the face of the planet. He's like, and I say that only because the characters that made him famous were like The Color Purple and Lethal Weapon. And in Lethal Weapon, he's like, hey, Riggs, I'm getting too old for this. Hey, Riggs, oh, yeah. And he sounds like a working class kind of guy. The dude is like the most highly educated human, and he's like so incredibly eloquent compared to what we've seen in his movies. He is way more like his character in the Royal Tenenbaums than any other movie. It's kind of sad that they're like, oh, Danny Glover, can you play sort of like this like working class black guy every movie forever? Instead, you're like this Juilliard trained, intelligent, like eloquent speaker. It's sad. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. Jokes are jokes. Words are words. Sticks and stones. Watch that special too. They're words. If you don't like them, leave. Don't sit there and try to take a guy's livelihood away. Don't sit there. It's really effective. Dave Chappelle said his movie that he's peddling around is not getting picked up by anything because of they want to avoid the controversy. And that is the power that people have. It's like, vote for your dollar. If you don't want to support Dave Chappelle, don't pay to go see him. But don't say that he can't go around getting paid. That's wrong. Danny Glover is great. Alright, gotta go. See you guys tomorrow. Have fun. I hope that you learned as much as I learned today, which was absolutely nothing.